Okay, so some time ago I saw some YouTubers say, hey besties, welcome back to my channel. And I'm like, okay, that makes sense, because with the amount of time we spend on creating content for you guys and always editing and uploading that content for you guys are now our besties. So yes, I'm going to be stealing that and I'm going to be saying, hey besties, welcome back to the channel. And you guys, let's get into the video. So in case you're seeing my face for the first time, my name is vivianaddict. I'm a fashion designer based here in Abuja, and ignore my paper, these are my talking points. I don't want to talk out of this point here. Okay, I'm about to share the sewing version for the previous video I just uploaded, the pattern drafting for a lapel jacket. Now that jacket has no collar, it's just a simple lapel jacket, and it's the easiest beginner's project to try out. Like if you're a beginner, it is the easiest project for you to try. If you don't want to go through that whole process of making a collar, you can start off with making a lapel jacket, and once you're used to making a lapel jacket, you can just go ahead and start making a collar jacket. First of all, before we start the sewing version, I just want to talk about the fabric. Now the fabric I used for this jacket is crepe. I made a video some time ago when I told you guys that all the fabric I always use for my tutorials are crepe, unless it's chiffon or silk, but I always come back to crepe. So I used crepe for this jacket. And how many yards did I use? I used okay, because this is a two-piece, it came with a shirt, I used 3 yards. So 3 yards for the two-piece, that means 2 yards for the jacket. So yeah, 2 yards for the jacket, the lapel jacket. It has no collar, remember. So yeah, 2 yards for the lapel jacket. And yeah, you guys, let's go into something else I wanted to tell you guys before going into the video. I lost the first clip on how this particular jacket was cut. I lost the first clip, but then thank God I have a previous video I uploaded on how to make a notch collar dress, and just the same way I cut that particular notch collar jacket dress, that's the same way I made the lapel dress. So I'm just going to use the same clip to just show you guys what you need to cut, and then from there I'm just going to take it up with the actual video we are doing. So let's just go into that. Now if you have your pattern drafted, you should have your center front and your side front. That's 2 for the front piece. And now for the back, you should have your center back and your side back. That's 2 patterns for the back. Now this is how many pieces you need to cut. And I went ahead to leave 1/2 inch allowance round my pattern white cotton. How many pieces do you need to cut? 4 pieces for all patterns, both the front and the back. Okay, now this is my center front and I have 4 pieces of fabric, 2 for the main piece and 2 for the lining, and my lining is 1 inch shorter than the main piece. Now you guys are going to be finding out why at the end of the video when we are joining the length, but then my lining is 1 inch shorter. Okay, now I have 2 pieces here for the main piece. And you guys, for my center front, I used the same fabric for the lining and the main piece. Okay, so this is my side front and I left 1/2 inch allowance round for the joining. Now you can see the lining of my side front is different. I'm using the normal lining, and this is the main piece of my side front. Okay, and my lining here is 1 inch shorter than the main piece. Now joining the back piece, let me show you guys what I have on my pattern first and then we'll go join. Now this is my back piece. I have my center back and I have my side back, and I left 1/2 inch allowance round. Now like I said, all the patterns cut out 4 pieces, 4 pieces or 4 pieces, anyone. Now this is the lining of my center back and it is 2, and this is the main piece. And my lining here is 1 inch shorter than the main piece. Okay, for all the linings, they are all 1 inch shorter than the main piece. Okay, so this is my side back, and you can see the main piece 2 here and the lining 2, and this is the lining 2. Now in total you should have 16 pieces of fabric or pieces of fabric, 8 for lining and 8 for the main piece, and this fabric you have should be identical to each other. Okay, now the joining of the back piece, this is what we're going to be doing first. The first thing we're going to do is sew our center back together. Remember that because of the shaping we did on the pattern, the center back is split into two. We're just going to sew this in by the half an inch allowance we left while cutting the pattern on the fabric. So once I am after joining my center backs together, my two pieces for the center back, the next step for me to do now is attach my side back to my center back. So this is my center back. The two piece has been joined. The next thing we're going to do is attach the center back. Now you should have two pieces for your center back. So go ahead and attach each of the side that fit into your side back. Attach them, and once you're sewing, do not forget to sew to the exact allowance you left while cutting around your pattern. So I left half an inch around my pattern, and I'm sewing in half an inch. Now the next step for us to do for the front is to attach the center front to the side fronts. Okay, now these are my two side fronts. I'm just going to bring my center front and I'll attach each piece to the piece where they're supposed to sit. So this is for the right, and I'm just going to sew by the allowance I left, which is half an inch, and I'll be bringing in, this is for the left, and I'll be sewing by half an inch. Please do not forget to sew by the allowance you left for your sewing. Okay, now I'll be doing this together with you guys on my sewing machine, and right now this is me attaching my center back to my side back, and I'll be sewing by that exact allowance I left for sewing for the joining. So I left half an inch. I've been screaming this, so in case you got lost in the explanation, please hear this. I left half an inch while cutting out around my pattern. While cutting my pattern around the fabric, I left half an inch for joining, and right now that is what I'm sewing this by, and this is the center back and the side back. Okay, moving on. So this is how my back piece look, all parts joined, and we're going to move on to the front. Now remember that whatever you do on the main piece, you should repeat that on the lining. So I don't have the time to show you what I did on the lining, but it's the same thing I did on the main piece. Okay, so now sewing my center front to the side front, I'm sewing by half an inch, and I'm sewing the side front that fits to the center front, the side of the center front. So this is the left side that I'm sewing right now. Once I'm done, I'm just going to do the same thing on the right side of my front piece. That's the right side, the right hand side. And please do not forget that whatever you're doing on your main piece, repeat that step on your lining. Okay, so your lining should be duplicate of what you have on your main piece. Please go ahead and iron, and these are the two front pieces. Okay, remember that I'm still putting it out there. Note that whatever you do on the main piece, repeat on your lining. Okay, the next step is for us to sew the front piece to the back piece. So this is the back piece all sewn. Now we're just going to bring the two front pieces we have, the left side and the right side, and we're going to attach each side to where they fit. Now this is the left side. I'm just going to sew by I think I sewed by 0.5 inch because I left allowance while drafting out the pattern. So I'm sewing this in right now by 0.75, which is half and quarter inch. So if you're doing this project for the first time, please take your time. Do not rush it. Just follow what I'm doing. If you're not following the explanation that I'm saying, the English that I'm speaking, just follow the write-up on the screen or follow my hand illustration. Now, I just sewed in my shoulder by 0.5 inch. And I'm done with the left side. I'm going to repeat the same step for the right and do the same thing on the lining. Okay, repeat what you're doing right now or what I am doing right now on the main piece. Make sure you also repeat that step on your lining. Okay, thank you for doing that. So yeah, I'm sewing in the other side, and you guys, the whole piece for my main piece is done. We're just going to move into the next step or the next phase. So remember to sew your shoulder by half an inch or quarter an inch, whichever it is you left the allowance for. So this is my main piece all done. Note again, whatever you do on the main piece do on the lining. Okay, now let's see what we have after sewing the main piece and the lining. So because I did not sew the lining on the screen, like on the camera, I'll be showing you what I have now. This is the result for my lining. I have gone ahead to sew all parts in. I have sewn the back, and I've sewn the back to the front piece, and this is how it's looking now. Remember that the video I used for my illustration, I said that the center front of my lining is the same fabric for my main piece. Okay, so that because the center front atlas will be showing at the lapel, so it has to be the same. Now you guys, this is my main piece. You guys already saw how we sewed this part, so this is how it looks after I was done. So this is the main piece, and it is all sewn in. Now let's move to the next phase. Okay, so before we could be able to cut out our sleeve, we're going to just go ahead and measure out the armhole. Measure out your armhole, find out what you have there, because we're going to use that to create the sleeves. Now you guys, for my sleeve, I have a lot of videos that I've created sleeves, so go ahead and watch one of them and draft out your pattern for the sleeve, because I won't be doing that. I've gone ahead to cut out my pattern on the fabric, and as you can see, I have the main piece of my sleeve and I also have the lining. So see what I have, and I also have the main piece of the sleeve longer than the lining, just as I did on the main actual front piece and back piece. Okay, now this part, you guys, you can see what is happening here. At this part, my fabric was finished, but I was going to patch, so I know what I was going to do to get a complete result. I was going to patch. Now I'm just going to go ahead and take my sleeves to the sewing machine. I will join them and then attach them to the main piece, and also the lining. I'll attach the lining sleeve to the lining piece. Now the next step is for me to create my shoulder pads, and this is very easy. I'm using wadding for this. I'm using wadding for my pads. So what I will do now is mark 3 inches upwards from the edge of my wadding. I'll just indicate 3 inches. And then I'll mark 6 inches in between my 3 inches. So the 6 inches is just going to be sitting in the way that 3 inches I just marked is just going to be the center. So you can see me indicating that is the center. And I'm just going to create a curve like this and like this. And that is how I created my pad. Very simple. This is my shoulder pad, and it was created the easiest way. So you guys, I'm just going to go ahead and cut out 4 of this, because I want the shoulder to be a little bit high, like if I did booger. I just want it to look a little bit high, so I'm just going to be cutting 4 of this. So 2 is just going to be for the left and 2 is going to be for the right. So I have 4 here. Now the next step is for me to sew my pad to the shoulder. That's the parts that I've created. I'm just going to be sewing it to the shoulder. So I've done this side, so you guys see how it's going to look after I was done. So I'll show you how to do it on this side. Make sure you've ironed your shoulder line in like this so it lays flat, and then bring in your pads. So what I'll do now is indicate the middle point on my shoulder pad with my blue chalk, and now I'm just going to place the middle point of the shoulder pad. That's the pads. I'll place that to the shoulder line, making sure that the middle point I just indicated sit on the shoulder line itself, where I have the sewing for the shoulder line, and then I'll sew on the right side. So let's just sew so you see what I mean. Now I make sure I pin this, so when I'm sewing on the right side of my fabric, it does not move. Okay. And voila, this is how it looks. Okay, I'll show you guys the result right now. See how it looks. So I am done with my shoulder part. This is how it's going to be looking last after I join my lining. It's just going to be there. Now the next step for us to do is sew the lining and the main piece together. We are about to be done with this whole sewing process. Now this is the lining piece. You guys remember I've gone ahead to sew my sleeve to the lining piece and also to the main piece. So before I join my lining piece to the main piece, I'll make sure I open up my lining piece. I'll just pick a side and make a 2 inches opening like this. This is going to help us flip this to the right side. Okay, and now joining, the first thing I'll do when I'm joining is sew the neck line. That is always the first thing you do when you're joining a jacket like this. You sew the neckline. So even though it has a collar, you also first of all sew the collar, which is the neckline, before you go ahead and do other process. So I'm sewing the neckline by 1/2 inch. Like I said, if you're a beginner, please take your time, don't rush it, okay? If my video is too fast, I think there's a way for you to even make it slower. So once we are done sewing the neckline, we're going to go ahead and top stitch, and make sure when you're top stitching, you stop stitch on the lining. So all this, the first sewing we just did joining the neckline, we'll move the sewing, the 1/2 inch sewing, to the lining side, and then we'll just top stitch it on the lining side, okay? So make sure you do that. And I'm top stitching at the right side, so you always do that. You always top stitch at the right side of your fabric, girl. Once I was done with the process, this is how it looks. Now we're just going to move to the next thing, and that is sewing the length. So let's sew the length of the jacket. Now I'm just going to bring in my main piece length and the lining length. I'll place them together, right side facing right side, and I'll sew on the wrong side, and I'll sew this by 1/2 inch. So if you've watched a lot of my jackets videos, you will know that the whole process is the same. By this time, if you're an OG, and when I mean OG, you've been watching my videos and you've sewn jackets with me, you will know that this process is the same and you should be used to it by now, okay? So the next thing we're going to do is sew the center front, where we have the lapel sitting. We're going to be sewing that in. And to do this, make sure you fold your center fronts to be equal parts. Now you remember that the lining is shorter than the main piece by 1 inch, but when sewing, just make sure you fold this in the way that the both lengths are equal, okay? The lining piece and the main piece are equal length, even though your main piece have to come out a little bit to your lining to make it complete length. Make sure you just do that. And the next thing we're going to do is sew the sleeves together. Now to sew the sleeves together, I'm just going to bring out my lining sleeve like this, and I'll bring out my main piece sleeve like this. Now make sure that no part is twisting, okay? And I'll bring the both of them to face each other like this. I'll place them, see the way I'm placing them. I'm placing the right side of the fabrics together, and I'm making sure where I have my joining on the sleeves, I place the both lines together, and then I just sew on the wrong side round the base of my sleeve. That is the only part we're sewing, round the base of the sleeves. And if you're able to follow what I just said, your result should look exactly like what I have. So let's see what I have. Now I'm just going to go and flip this to the right side to confirm. This is what I have, okay? I'm just going to bring out my sleeve like this, and you can see that the sleeves just looks very, very good. Now moving on to the last step in this video, I'm just going to close that opening we created. Now I know I did not sew the other side of the sleeves, but yeah, you guys get the G. I just wanted you guys to see how I'll be joining that part of the sleeves. And yeah, I did the other one off. I'll close the opening on the lining. And now I can take my whole jacket to iron this out so everything lays really flat. You guys, that is the sewing version. Please let me know in the comment section if the steps were any help. Let me know. And this is my final look, girl. I have the short video also available, so if you want to own this complete set, just go watch how I made my shorts and also make your lapel jacket, and go ahead and blend these two together. You don't even have to use the same fabric, just use two fabrics that match, and you're going to be looking so good. Trust me. I'm really happy to be doing this for you guys. I really appreciate you guys watching from the beginning to the end. Thank you so much. I'll be seeing you in my next video. Love and light to you. Bye.